Hello, welcome to the Sutliffian Report. Today we have an incredible headline, which I never in my life thought I would read. But we're going to be talking about President Biden wanting to free Khalid Sheik Muhammad, or otherwise known as KSM. And this is a Christian news show, so we always start with the Word of God. And today we are reading from Hebrews 2, verses 5 to 8. I picked this, and I'm just, I'm I think this is just very powerful. Here we go. It says, for unto the angels has he not put in subjection the world to come, whereof we speak. But one in a certain place testified, saying, What is man, that you are mindful of him, or the Son of Man, that you visit him? You made him a little lower than the angels. You crowned him with the glory and honor, and did set him over the works of your hands. You have put all things in subjection under his feet. For in that he put all in subjection under him, he left nothing that is not put under him. But now we see not yet all things put under him. In verse 5, which is for under which the angels unto the angels has he not put in subjection the world to come. So this is important to think about. Verse 5 reminds us that God never will put an angel in a position of power over this world. The messianic rule of Christ mentioned throughout the Old Testament prophets. Paul, the author of this book, is intimately acquainted with the scriptures. Verse 6 is a rewording of Psalms 8, 4-6. What is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you visit him? For you have made him a little lower than the angels, and have crowned him with the glory and honor. You have made him to have dominion over the works of your hands, and you have put all things under his feet. This passage in Psalms and here in Hebrews is meant to be taken two ways. It's applicable to all mankind and to Christ. We know this because Psalms 8, verses 7-8 states, All sheep and oxen, yea, and the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, and the fish of the sea, and whatsoever passes through the paths of the seas. This clearly refers to the act of God placing man over creation. Then Psalms 8:9 adds the twist, letting us know to think of this in terms of a personal God who lowered himself to become man. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. This verse clearly gives glory to the Messiah, the Lord Jesus Christ. The Lord made man lower than angels. This Lord God chose to visit man whom he made lower than the angels. He came in the person of Jesus of Nazareth. The enemies of Christ will become his footstool. They are to be his footstool. What a great and glorious God we serve. Dear Lord Jesus, you are the great I am, awesome and mighty. Without you, nothing was made that is made. Lord, I thank and praise you for all you have done in my life. Lord, I ask that you use me that I may praise you with my words and deeds by bringing others to see your great love. In Jesus' name, amen. Wow. Now, I have quite the show tonight lined up, and I had hoped to possibly get an interview with someone today, but that didn't work. But and that's not even on this topic. So I have a few different pieces to get into today, and this one is the kicker. I saw this coming down the line, and I hesitated to think it would happen. When Biden started to push the release of 9/11 terrorists, this is the one man that would be a true sign of dementia that if he's going to be released. And dementia, treason, and everything else you can think of as a high level crime and these are reasons for impeachment. To even consider, this is an assignment by Biden's Justice Department to negotiate. I want you to consider this, to negotiate the release of KSM. I'm more than disgusted when I think about it. Let me explain why. These are some of the stats. Now, believe it or not, these come from CNN. I think I have these. No, these are. I think I have these in the wrong order. Okay, so let's start here. 19 hijackers of 4 fueled loaded U.S. commercial airplanes were bound for West Coast destination. 2,977 people were killed in New York City, Washington, D.C., and outside Shanksville, Pennsylvania. So this man, they don't want to, he doesn't get the death penalty after killing almost 3,000 people. Keep that in mind. That doesn't count the amount of people that died as a result of helping out and clearing out the remains and taking care of what was left of the Trade Center. 2,753 people killed at the World Trade Center site in Lower Manhattan. 343 New York City firefighters who died in the initial attack and subsequent collapse of the World Trade Center towers. 23 New York City police officers who died. 37 Port Authority officers who died. 2 is the age of the youngest victim. 85 is the age of the oldest victim. 184 people killed when hijacked American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon. 40 passengers and crew were killed when United Flight 93 crashed near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. 1,641 World Trade Center victims remain positively identified as of August 2017. $500,000 is the estimated amount of money it cost to plan and execute the attacks. $123 billion is the estimated economic loss during the first 2 to 4 weeks after the World Trade Center towers collapsed in New York City, as well as decline in air travel over the next few years. I get disgusted as I think about this, that they're going to simply release the man who was the mastermind behind this. I don't have another way to put this than being disgusted. Let's talk about who KSM is now. If you're not familiar with the Investigative Project on Terrorism site, you go to investigativeproject.org. It is one of the top sites in the world on terrorism. It is, I think, the top one here in the States. I don't know that there is another one better at this point, but their work is outstanding. I'm just going to read this, and then I'm going to tell you what the 9/11 Commission says about this man that Biden wants to negotiate the release of. And I want to call back to last week and talk about the purpose of a detention facility is, again, they're detaining him so he will not go back and join a battle. So far, everyone that has been released under Obama, that's when they were released, was under Obama, they all went back and engaged in jihad. So we should know right now that this is not wise. But let's take a look at how dangerous this man is. Khalid Sheik Muhammad, often referred to as KSM, is a high-ranking al-Qaeda operative, identified by the 9/11 Commission report as the principal architect of the 9/11 attacks. He's also suspected of being involved in some of the most significant terror plots over the last 2 decades. Okay, this is suspected. In the 9/11 report, it's not suspected, it's known. So you can tell us it's just a little outdated here. I want you to think about that. He was part of that first attempt. This is why he knew how to take him down. He's also part of the plot to assassinate Pope during his trip to the Philippines in 1995. Operation Bojinka, a plot to blow up U.S. airliners over the Pacific in 1995. An aborted 2002 attack on Los Angeles U.S. Bank Tower. the 2002 Bali nightclub bombings, a suicide bomb attack on a synagogue in Tunisian resort island of Djerba in 2002, the failed bombings of American Airlines Flight 63, and the kidnapping and murder of Wall Street journalist reporter Daniel Pearl in 2002. Many of these plots were conceived by KSM's nephew, an infamous terrorist, Ramzi Youssef. We know him as the Blind Sheikh. KSM was finally captured in 2003 in Karachi, Pakistan. He was born in Baluchistan region of Pakistan, spent some of his childhood in Agricultural and Technical State University in 1986 with a degree in mechanical engineering. Next year, KSM went to fight against Soviet troops in Afghanistan. In the 1990s, KSM turned his attention towards anti-American activities. In 1996, KSM was indicted on terrorism charges in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. By 2001, he was put on the FBI list of 22 most wanted terrorists. KSM is currently being held in the prison camp in Guantanamo Bay. It's not a prison camp. It is a detention facility. If he's in prison, then there's no reason for him to be released because he's killed he's responsible for the deaths of over 2,000, almost 3,000 people. And that's the ones we're only talking about on 9/11. As you can hear,
90 seconds.
What's going on here? This stupid thing. All right, BTR is fighting me again. Hold on just a second. The joy of BTR. Sometimes you have to fight to get what you want. And oh boy.
I think you probably just set the time for 15 minutes instead
of fixing it right now. Thank you. Had to figure, I had it all set. I thought I did. Well, make one of those stupid mistakes and it catches you. All right. Okay. Now I know how to fix it during the show. Thank God. Let me tell you what the 9/11 Commission report says on KSM. This man, it just disgusts me beyond belief to think that this man is being released. This comes directly from Chapter 5, Al-Qaeda aims at the American homeland. And it's titled, this section is titled, Khalid Sheik Muhammad. No one exemplifies the model of the terrorist entrepreneur more clearly than Khalid Sheik Muhammad, the principal architect of 9/11 attacks. KSM followed a rather tortuous path to his eventual membership in Al-Qaeda. Highly educated and equally comfortable in a government office or a terrorist safe house, KSM applied his imagination, technical aptitude, and managerial skills to hatching and planning an extraordinary array of terrorist schemes. These ideas included conventional car bombings, political assassinations, aircraft bombing, hijacking, reservoir poisoning, and ultimately the use of aircraft as missiles guided by suicide operatives. Like his nephew, Ramzi Youssef, 3 years KSM's junior, KSM grew up in Kuwait, but traces his ethnic lineage to Baluchistan region straddling Iran and Pakistan. Raised in a religious family, KSM claims to have joined the Muslim Brotherhood at age 16, to have become enamored of violent jihad at youth camps in the desert. Gee, who gave him those trainings? Remember that. It's the Muslim Brotherhood that provided those trainings. In 1983, following his graduation from secondary school, KSM left Kuwait to enroll in Chowan College, a small Baptist school in Murfreesboro, North Carolina. After a semester at Chowan, KSM transferred to North Carolina Agricultural and Tech State University in Greensboro, which he attended with Yusuf's brother, another future Al-Qaeda member. KSM earned a degree in mechanical engineering in December of '86. Although he apparently did not attract attention for extreme Islamic beliefs. Again, these are not extreme if you understand Islam. This is the sad, apparent, unwitting foolishness, and that's in here where they're calling it extremist. They did not notice these beliefs while he was in the United States. KSM plunged into the anti-Soviet Afghan jihad soon after graduating from college. Visiting Pakistan for the first time in early of 1987, he traveled to Peshawar, where his brother Zahid introduced him to the famous Afghan mujahid Abdul Rasul Sayyaf, head of the Hizbul Ittihad al-Islami, Islamic Union Party. Sayyaf became KSM's mentor and provided KSM with military training at Sayyaf's Sada camp. KSM claims he then fought the Soviets and remained at the front for 3 months before being summoned to perform administrative duties for Abdullah Azam. KSM next took a job working for an electronics firm that catered to the communications needs of Afghan groups, where he learned about drills used to excavate caves in Afghanistan. Between 88 and 92, KSM helped run a non-governmental organization, NGO, in Peshawar and Jalabad. He's sponsored by Sayyaf. It was designed to aid young Afghan mujahideen. In 1992, KSM spent some time fighting alongside the mujahideen in Bosnia and supporting the effort with financial donations. After returning briefly to Pakistan, he moved his family to Qatar at the suggestion of the former Minister of the Islamic Affairs of Qatar, Sheikh Abdallah. Keep thinking about this, how Qatar was involved. Sheikh Abdallah bin Khalid bin Hamal Al Thani, KSM, took a position in Qatar as project engineer with the Qatari Ministry of Electricity and Water. Although he engaged in extensive international travel during his tenure at the ministry, much of it in furtherance of terrorist activity, KSM would hold his position there until early in 96, when he fled to Pakistan to avoid capture by U.S. authorities. KSM first came to the attention of U.S. law enforcement as a result of his cameo role in the World Trade Center bombing. According to KSM, he learned of Ramzi Yousef's intention to launch an attack missile inside the United States in 91 or 92, when Yousef was receiving explosives trainings in Afghanistan. During the fall of 92, while Yousef was, this is the blind sheikh we're talking about, was building the bomb he would use in that attack, KSM and the blind sheikh had numerous telephone conversations during which the blind sheikh discussed his progress and sought additional funding. On November 3rd, 1992, KSM wired $660 from Qatar to the bank account of the blind sheikh's co-conspirator, Muhammad Salama. KSM does not appear to have contributed any more substantially to the operation. Blind Sheikh's instant notoriety as the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing inspired KSM to become involved in planning attacks against the United States. By his own account, KSM's animus towards the United States stemmed not from his experiences there as a student, but rather from his violent disagreement with the U.S. foreign policy favoring Israel. In 1994, KSM accompanied the blind sheikh to Philippines, and the two of them began planning what is now known as the Manila Air or Bojinka plot, the intended bombing of 12 U.S. commercial jumbo jets over the Pacific during a 2-day span. This marked the first time KSM took part in the actual planning of a terrorist attack. While sharing an apartment in Manila during the summer of 1994, he and the blind sheikh acquired chemicals and other materials necessary to construct bombs and timers. They also cased and targeted flights to Hong Kong and Seoul that would have onward legs to the United States. During this time period, KSM and the blind sheikh also developed plans to assassinate President Clinton during the November 94 trip to Manila and to bomb U.S.-bound cargo carriers by smuggling jackets containing nitrocellulose on board. KSM left the Philippines in September of 94 and met up with Yousef, the blind sheikh, in Karachi, following their casing of flights. There they enlisted Wali Khan Amin Shah, also known as Usama Azmura, and in the Manila air plot during the fall. I mean, this goes on and on and on. The details in here about how he planned things, about what he knew. And there was originally in this plan, it was originally the 9/11 plan was to be hitting not only Washington, D.C. and New York City. The original plan was to also hit Asia at the same time, Southeast Asia. And the only reason that stopped is because bin Laden decided that he didn't want to hit Southeast Asia at the same time. Now, keep that in mind. They had difficulty getting some people here, and they were just going to use those they couldn't get here to do the attack in Southeast Asia. They thought it would be, it set a world precedent that they could really reach out and hit anyone. After you read this, you sit there and you wonder how. I mean, I'm not even. This is the thing that bothers me is how long this planning went. It was in stages. I'm just going to skip a little farther ahead. It says, according to KSM, the 1998 bombings of the U.S. embassies in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam marked a watershed in the evolution of the 9/11 plot. KSM claims these bombings convinced him that bin Laden was truly committed to attacking the United States. He continued to make himself useful, collecting news articles and helping other al-Qaeda members with their outdated computer equipment. Bin Laden, apparently at Atef's urging, finally decided to give KSM the green light for the 9/11 operation sometime in late 98 or early 99. KSM then accepted bin Laden's standing invitation to move to Kandahar and work directly with al-Qaeda. In addition to supervising and planning and preparations for the 9/11 operation, KSM worked with and eventually led al-Qaeda's media committee. But KSM states he refused to swear a formal oath of allegiance to bin Laden, thereby retaining a last vestige of his cherished autonomy. At this point, late 1998 to early 99, planning for the 9/11 operation began in earnest. Think about this. Yet while the 9/11 project occupied the bulk of KSM's attention, he continued to consider other possibilities for terrorist attacks. For example, he sent al-Qaeda operatives to East al-Britani and to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, to learn about the jihad in Southeast Asia. Now, if you read KSM's testimony, that was done because there was originally, this is not stated in here, the original claim by KSM is that there was going to be two-front attack. It would be here in the United States and in Southeast Asia. That is not stated here. It should be. And that's what's missing from the report. I've only read a few pages. I want you to think this is the kind of man that bin Laden picked. He picked this man to release terrorists here in the United States. I mean, I'm sorry. I just get so angry when I think about this, that we have a man in office who really isn't making any choices. And my personal belief is this is Obama's next attempt to release a terrorist that can attack the United States. Every one of those 5 kings that he released for the treasonous bastard Bergdahl, they are now actively engaged in war against the United States. Guess where they are? They are in Afghanistan, and they are leading Afghanistan. Think about it. So he's released a terrorist last week into Saudi Arabia. Where do you think they want to release this terrorist to? Could it be Saudi Arabia? Yeah. Again, his roots are Pakistani. If you let him go to Pakistan, he will feel safe there too. Will he feel safe in Qatar? Absolutely. And this is where I lose it. I'm sorry. I can't handle the fact that we are doing this. We're even negotiating this. He was indicted in a criminal court for terrorism. They had to, they had to arrest him afterwards. So it's not only he's in a detention cell. This is the importance to understand. Yeah, that's true. MBS doesn't want to deal with these people. And KSM is Muslim Brotherhood, so going to Saudi Arabia would be a death sentence to him. That's well said, UA. Going to Saudi Arabia would be a death sentence for this guy because he brags about his Muslim Brotherhood membership. Would he be stupid enough to do it there? I think he would feel that no one would touch him, no matter where he goes.
Can I get a hearty let's go Brandon on this one, dude?
Let's go,
Seriously.
Brandon.
Are you kidding me? I had no idea. I just looked this up. Not that I would ever accuse you, Paul, of being a liar, but I'm like, this can't be true. But I just Googled it. Sure enough, it's freaking true. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's what I spent the morning doing. I was checking and again last week. Biden. I'm going to put it out there. I'm not going to call him Biden anymore because Biden doesn't have the brain capacity to do this. This is orchestrated by Obama. There's no other person that I know of that is that desirous to release terrorists.
Well,
I look at this and I'm just.
Hey, Paul, why not release
my body wants to cry. That's how I feel. I feel like
the
treasonous actions of this man is just beyond my belief.
Why not release? I mean, think about it. This is a Democratic policy. They're releasing criminals all out throughout their Democratic-run cities. I mean, seriously, every one of the people charged in the 8,600 plus murders in Chicago, of the limited few that have been charged, have all been out on bail or no bail for other gun-related charges. As a matter of fact, as of 3 weeks ago in Chicago alone, we had 100, people on trial for murder that were released on no bond and are on ankle bracelets. That's in Cook County in Chicago alone. 100 that are charged with murder or attempted murder. I mean, no, this is their plan. Just create chaos, release these criminals, praise these criminals, terrorists, whatever, and release havoc upon the world. And then, therefore, that will justify their we can protect you now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Man,
Protecting us now would be that they stay in prison for the rest of their doggone lives.
I don't care if KSM stays in his own little hole. And I'm not going to say I want him dead. I think he has a price to pay, and that price is staying isolated for the rest of his life.
I want him dead. What's wrong with that? He orchestrated 3,000 lives to die. I want him dead. It's not a bad thing to say. I see
nothing wrong with the death penalty is what I should say.
Amen.
And I do endorse it. And for the murder of 3,000 people, I see it wholly justified. If Hitler was alive, they would have executed him. He was cowardly and he killed himself. All right.
See, I'm with Paul on this, only because I'm not as merciful as you are, Connie. I say keep him alive for a very long time in isolation because
the reason to keep him alive is so he can't claim martyrdom.
Well, that's another reason too. But I just think it's more cruel to keep him alive in total isolation and just hear the sound of silence in his own thoughts. Okay, for the rest of his unnatural life, man. But yeah, I'm not merciful. So when it comes to this dude, but yeah,
Paul, what was his sentence, Paul? When they finally sentenced him,
he has not received a sentence. He has
for over 20 years. He has not received a sentence yet.
He's been in the detention. This is the thing. Jeez. This is where most people get it wrong. When somebody's at Gitmo, it is a detention facility to keep jihadis from rejoining the fight. It is not that is not a place where you are serving a criminal sentence.
It's kind of a place. It's kind of a, if you think of it as like a modified prison of war camp. These people were picked up on the battlefield for committing atrocities or attacks on U.S. soldiers. And so in order to keep them from continuing to carry out attacks on soldiers, we had to put them somewhere. What Obama wanted to do is he wanted to actually bring these people at one point in time, wanted to bring these people into the United States court systems. And if that would have been the case,
New York City.
Yeah, if he would have done that, these guys are entitled to all kinds of discovery, and many of the secrets that we have, as far as how we monitor them, and what assets that we have in theater and how they operate, all that stuff would have been out there for the public. And Obama didn't care. He had to be talked off the ledge to do this. Now, to let this guy go is Paul. I agree. This guy is responsible for the deaths of 3,000 at least 3,000 Americans. We don't know what happened before.
We have to include these. Now, what has not been said is he was involved in some point with the bombing of the Cole. He was involved. I mean, you have to look at all these attacks that he was involved in. We're talking far over 3,000 murdered. And I don't know how else you can consider this. I was going to read the crime of treason, and I didn't pull that up.
How could you? Oh, you were talking about Obama committing treason.
This is an act of treason. I don't have another
committing treason. You're right.
Well, think about this. I'm just reading over one of the articles. So the reason to release him is because he's severely mentally ill. Yeah, that makes sense. Release a murderer of 3,000 people because he's mentally ill. That makes perfect sense, people. Think about that. You're releasing
that is
a
the
crazy
same reason
murderer.
they released the last jihadi.
Back into society. That's into the world society.
How many people do we still have?
Oh, man. I think he's the only one now, isn't he?
No. Well, actually, if he's being released, he may be the only one left.
I think so. Yeah, we need to send all the Democratic leadership to Gitmo, man. That's my policy right there. I'm telling you, man. Seriously, these people.
Maybe it's being emptied to put the true treasonous bastards in. I don't know, but let me just read this. I'm going to share the screen.
I was just okay. They still have 39 people there. You can get them.
39. I all I can think of is they're scared to. This is again. I consider this man a treasonous bastard. Whoever's deciding to let him out, I consider them a treasonous bastard. I'm sorry. And is that large enough? Just want to double. No, it's not. Let me pull this screen up. Okay. And I still need to largen it. Okay. This comes from. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Now, this is the federal law. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under this title, but not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. All right. Adheres to their enemies, giving them aid. Oh, we're going to let you out. Comfort. The crime of sedition, let me just look that one up real quick because that is the other one that needs to be talked about. Are these acts of sedition? And here it is. Let me just read this from sedition is language used to intended to incite insurrection against the governing authority. Edward Jenks said contends that sedition is perhaps the very vaguest of all offenses. What I want to do is read the law here for the United States, but I mean, let's see if I can find that real quick. Criminal law. There we go. Come on. Now it's not going where I want it. But let me close this up then. This is, when you read the law about sedition, it implies that what we're talking about here is an act of sedition. It's an act of making us unsafe. It's an act of I consider this treasonous. I'm sorry. I just straight up treason. And I don't have another.
Well, that's what the law
it just makes me
says.
angry and frustrated. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's what it says, treasonous, if you're going to put him somewhere else. So that would make Biden treasonous. Is that correct?
Well, anybody who's in this now, here's the catch here. If this is where you bring in sedition, you have a person committing an act of treason, and you have another person hiding that act of treason. And that person is now guilty of what's called conspiracy to commit sedition. And if you're standing behind that, so it adds up. You can have a whole bunch of people that are purposely damaging the government. What are we seeing today? High rolling prices. For the first time ever in the history of the United States, we see empty shelves in stores because of the push of communism. And I've got a few other stories I'm going to pull in here today that just it just screams that we have a serious problem with treason and sedition in this country. And you look at who is the cause, who is behind this. If we count, if we listen to what the Egyptians said, the Rose Al Yusuf paper in Egypt told us that Obama's initiation papers into the Muslim Brotherhood were there. They had them. They were telling us that. You can go back and you can check me. That's documented, okay? And that's there. If he was in that position, we got to look at, we had a Muslim Brotherhood member as a president of the United States. What power has he given out, and what power does he still hold? That is all important. We know that Biden is not capable. We know that his wife apparently is what I consider an elder abuser. She's partaking in elder abuse because, Joe has dementia. Putting him in this position is elder abuse. We put people in jail for that. And those who interact with him and know this should all be in jail, as far as I'm concerned. Anybody who is not asking for his mental faculties to be evaluated, his doctor should be in jail for elder abuse. And I look at, when you know someone who has dementia and you listen to Joe talk, you cannot tell me he does not have dementia. It's a sad tale to watch somebody go that direction. But
yeah, it's evident every time you hear him. It's evident, clear.
This is probably the worst week I've seen yet, and I was going to play that clip, but I didn't bother copying it. It was just, he didn't know this week. This week, Biden did not know that he was not the husband of his vice president. And he thought he was telling people he had COVID because he was announcing our vice president's husband had COVID, and he thought he was talking about himself.
Oh, geez.
And you think that messed up. You can go listen to it yourself.
Yep. Oh, yeah, he had to be corrected.
Do you have the link, Paul? Can you link it to us in the chat then?
I don't have that on me right now.
I'll get it out, and I'll give it to you. I'll find it.
Thanks, Brad.
But this dude, do you guys know, okay, not to mean switching gears on this, do you guys know Do you remember when Russia first invaded Ukraine back on February 24th, and Biden came out saying what a prophet he was? He sounded like Emperor Palpatine. All of this I have predicted has come true. I foresaw this for 6 months. Back in November, I predicted this. I saw this coming. He said in words to that effect. He actually did mention November.
We predicted it last May.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Do you know why he specifically mentioned November? You know what this moron did? This moron, okay, signed a mutual defense pact, okay, all right, with Ukraine, saying the United States would defend its sovereign territory against aggression. Now, this is not a treaty, so it's not binding, okay, but he basically told the Ukrainians and the Russians that the United States of America would defend, okay, Ukraine's sovereign territory. In other words, we would come to their aid with no-fly zones. We would come to their aid pouring in tanks and heavy armor. Not in those specific words, but it does say specifically, we will defend your sovereign territory. It says it in the preamble, line 1, and it goes there details. Oh, and lots of stuff about LGBTQ stuff too, which is really bizarre. Okay, but anyway, so this now I'm not justifying what Putin did. Okay, but that's what set Putin off, because here you have the United States now actively saying it's going to actively defend another country that is not NATO aligned, or is not a NATO. Another thing, there was no ever any intention of allowing Ukraine in NATO. Okay, but we held it over like a carrot. Yes, if you do this, we'll let you in NATO. Anyway, he screwed over the Ukrainian people. Okay, and didn't even realize it. This is how dumb this guy is. And it's not him, it's his political advisors all around him. They're just so wrong on everything. This guy is a complete freaking moron. And now they're seriously going to release this man because he's mentally ill? I don't care if he was mentally ill to begin with. If he wasn't mentally ill, he would have done it in the first place. You know what I mean?
So you have to understand that this is where they're trying to use Sharia to overrule American constitutional law. And under Sharia, a person who is mentally ill serves no penalty, no retribution for murder. In the United States, you still pay a price. So that is, people have to understand that. I do want to play a piece that has to do with Ukraine. And this comes from Memory TV. It's a Turkey-based Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood scholar. And I think it's important to understand how, I've been reading articles by friends, and one is that Islam is the winner in the Ukraine-Russian battle. Let me share this video. You'll start to understand why. Some of these things you just sit there and you go, that can't be true. It can't be true. But when you start to see what they're saying, it's just a mind blower.
الآن الحاصل أن في روسيا مثلا أو في أوكرانيا يستعينون بالمسلمين على قتال غير المسلمين. هل هذا جائز في الشريعة الإسلامية أم لا؟ في فريق من أهل العلم يقول إذا كان المسلم يدخل مع غير المسلمين ليقاتل غير المسلمين ويوقع بينهم يعني في الحرب أكثر حتى يتدمروا أو شيء فهذا أمر جائز.
There's like an echo and it's real soft.
Okay.
Well, you can't understand him anyway. It's not a big deal.
Right, that's true.
فالآن هم منشغلوا ببعضهم. هل لو أن مسلم مثلا دخل واستطاع أن يعني يجعلهم أنهم يقتلوا بعضهم هل هذا جائز؟ في فريق من العلماء كالإمام ابن حزم يقول إن استطاع أن يفعل هذا فهو أمر حسن. قيل له يا إمام في فريقين من كفار بيقتلوا بعضهم. تمام. أول شيء هل يجوز لنا أن نجلس ونشاهد هؤلاء يقاتلون بعضهم بعضا أم لا؟ دي حاجة. طيب وهل يجوز لنا أن ندخل مع أحد الفريقين لقتال الفريق الآخر أم لا؟ اللي هي زي المسألة الآن، علما أنني أدخل بنية أيوة أن أقتل كافر فأؤجر أو يقتلني كافر فأموت شهيد. طيب يعني أنا دائر بين حالين، إما أن أقتل أو أقتل. أيوة. فهل نيتي هذه تنفع أم لا؟ كان إيه رد الإمام؟ كان الإمام ابن حجر قال إيه؟ أو أما مجرد المشاهدة فهذا لا إشكال فيه، أنتم هو كان السؤال الأولاني نتفرج بس عليهم وما بيقتلوا في بعض. نعم. وأما إن أنت تدخل مع أحد الفريقين فقال يجوز للمسلمين أن يقاتلوا كل من الفريقين، ويجوز للمسلمين أن يقفوا مع أحد الفريقين في قتال الآخر بشرط إعلاء كلمة الله والنكاية في الكفار.
Shocking. I saw that, and it just explains everything. The ones who are really benefiting here are the jihadis who get to kill the kuffar, because they can use this as a way to kill off the kuffar. That's.
Well, do you remember, like 20 years ago, it was when London released one of the masterminds in the Libyan bombing of Pan Am, whatever it was, that plane over Lockerbie, Scotland?
Yes.
They released him because he was dying of cancer. He had 6 months to live. It was incurable, inoperable cancer. As soon as he got released, he walked off the plane a free man. He immediately got cured on a flight back to Libya. You know, I mean, I don't understand why do they? I mean, they got to be on the take. They got to be getting bribes, and you know what I mean. Is it really worth the money that they're getting? And it's not necessarily bribes outright. It's stock tips or cush job deals afterwards, or job deals for their children. You know what I mean? It's all this crap that goes on, and it's like, you've got to be kidding me, man. They're doing it in our faces.
Yeah. With liberalism, I look as a mental disease. You start with your conclusion, and that's your premise.
Well, I don't consider it liberalism. I mean, if you think about it, I don't like Clinton, right? Bill Clinton. But Bill Clinton would not be in the Democratic Party today if he ran on that platform. He'd be kicked out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, John F. K., the same thing. Truman. I mean, all of them. They would be considered alt-right. No, this isn't liberalism. This is insanity. This is just, I mean, I don't know what infected them or you know, what happened, but no, they have gone so far to complete insane land where they praise and release criminals and they call police officers the criminals. And they, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is the la la land that we now live in. I'm in New York State, and one of the stories I'm going to share is local. It's extremely local to me. It's within 20 miles of where I live. And one of the persons who wrote this story, I've been following the story for a week. And I'm really disgusted, and I get angry, and like, you know, I've actually shared out that story, but I want to get to a different story first. So let me introduce this one. It's, again, we're talking about the insanity that we're seeing in reality. And this, if you guys know who Hassan Shibly is, he's the former CARE officer who got caught with his pants down, so to speak, engaging in muta. So because he got caught publicly engaging in muta, again, if you're not familiar with muta, that is, he's engaging basically with a prostitute that he paid her for her time. And he publicly admits this on NPR. For those of you who are asking any questions about it, he did this in an interview on NPR. And the new news with Hassan Shibly, beyond what I'm going to share, is that his wife, who kicked him out of the house, rightly, has now accepted him home. So let me tell you what this article is about. Former CARE official cheers for America's enemies. Wait till you see this. And get to the right page. Here we go. All right. So I'm just going to read. For those of you who can see the screen, he put out this tweet. America, right now, I have tremendous respect for every Ukrainian that picks up an AK-47 or a Molotov cocktail and risks their life fighting invading Russian forces, but I am principled. I also respect the Palestinians, Iraqis, Afghans who did the same. I hope America wakes up in its hypocrisy and acknowledges a foreign invasion is not okay. And what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan is not okay. As we celebrate Ukrainian resistance, we must celebrate Palestinian. Excuse me. I mean, this guy apparently doesn't know the history of Israel. That's the thing that bothers me the most about this statement. He does not know the history of Israel, or he's lying through his teeth. My belief is he is lying through his teeth.
He's lying. He is lying.
Yeah. So this article came out yesterday.
Propaganda.
I'm going to suggest, I don't like the title of this site, which is Islamism, as if there's anything different than Islam. But I do like the article. This is by Dexter Van Zyl. Hassan Shibly, the former head of Florida chapter of CARE, has cheered on terrorist organizations responsible for the deaths of U.S. soldiers. In Facebook post authored on March 16th, 2022, Shibly wrote that he has tremendous respect for every Ukrainian that picks up an AK-47 or Molotov cocktail. So, by the way, for those of you who don't know, you can find this picture, this right here, on Twitter also. So I found this on, I've seen this on Twitter. I've seen this on, on Facebook. I'm just more and more disgusted the more places I look when I see this. He says he supports, with this post, Shibly appears to cheer on terror organizations that have killed thousands of family members of his neighbors in the United States in battle over the past 2 decades. He also seems to legitimize undeniably bad actors such as the Taliban, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, and Hamas by comparing them to efforts of the Ukrainian government and its president, Volodymyr Zelensky, to defend its citizens from an invading army that attacked without provocation. It's not a good look for the activist who is intent on shaping the opinion of his fellow Americans. But then again, Shibly has posted similar statements in the past. For those of you who don't know, in October 21st, 21, of 2021, he called on American Muslims to work for the release of Aifa Siddiqui, who in 2010 was convicted for the attempted murder and assault of U.S. troops in Afghanistan. He also said hateful things about homosexuals in April 20. And this guy is getting speaking engagements all over. Yeah, and where's he going? To Muslim Brotherhood related mosques. Yeah. He's no longer a CARE official, but he is surely sharing out what he believes to be truthful. And I just consider his statements dangerous. I mean, keep in mind, this is the man who has been, he started an organization and was talking about training others, Muslims, in gun ownership. And every time you look at this man, he's okay with you having your guns taken, but he's okay because he's got the Democrat. He's behind those Democrats that want to take your guns, but he's training with a gun. Look what he's got in his hands, an AK-47. He's got take a look. This man is the kind of guy you want come speaking to your children, to your local mosque. I mean, he's going to try and get into your local high schools if he's not at your local colleges already. This man just is. I don't live in Florida, but if I lived in Florida, I'd probably be so disgusted I wouldn't know what to do when he came near. I have enough problems with certain people in my own area. And here's the kicker, the one that's got me angry and spitting tacks. I don't know if you've heard about this. This particular article has me so angry. I actually don't know what to do. To think that, again, there's a couple reasons it has me angry. First of all, I taught for the New York State Education Department. So that makes me a part of the same union of educators who had invited this. I'm supposed to be a Christian. I don't want to say these nasty words here. What I want to do is play a video before I get into this. I'm going to stop sharing here for a minute because I want to play a video that came off of Fox News today. Yesterday. And I'll give them all the credit for it. I'm stealing it, and sharing this because I think it needs to be talked about. People need to call. This is going to happen in April, people, unless more people call SUNY Brockport and complain. The best way I know to complain is say, don't expect any money from me. Don't expect my children or my grandchildren or my aunts, my uncles, cousins, or whatever to go to your college because you support cop killers. So let me just play this.
A university in upstate New York pulling funding for a public speaking event featuring a man convicted of killing officers Joseph Piagentini and Waverly Jones. But despite that, the event will not be canceled. Diane Piagentini, wife of one of those officers, joins us now. Diane, great to see you again. When you first heard about this event being held in the first place, could you believe it?
I couldn't believe it. I read the email over at least 5 times because I could not believe that college would leave out some vital information in a bio. His bio is so false and so untrue. They mention, that he spent 49 years in prison and he was presenting himself as a political prisoner. But they left out that he killed 2 police officers in New York. And one of them was my husband, Joseph Piagentini.
Unbelievable.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
I really have fault with the college for doing that. They're supposed to be educating our men and women that go there.
Wait.
And they should have put
Who is that?
True bio.
Is that Bodine's father?
Bodine?
Well, what's his name? Chelsea Bodine, the district attorney of San Francisco. Is that his dad they're talking about?
I believe so. I'm just going to go back a little bit.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And they should have put out a true bio, giving the young men and women who would attend this a chance to see what this man was.
But Diane,
I know
what does it say about the state of our education system, to your point, that an event like this is even considered in the first place?
Yes, I find that hard to believe, especially since Brockport is a criminal justice college. And here they're having a lecture from a man who professes to be a political prisoner, and he is actually a 3-time cop killer. Because in the San Francisco piece that they had in there, it says that he was in a shootout. Well, he wasn't in a shootout. They bombed the San Francisco precinct and killed Sergeant Young. So he's a 3-time cop killer.
Unbelievable. Diane Piagentini, seems like the state of New York keeps reopening old wounds with regard to the slaying, the murder, execution of your husband. And I don't know how you get through it, but you do. Diane Piagentini, we appreciate your time and your insight as always and bringing light to this. Carly, over to you.
What does it say? Now, let me tell you who wrote. I'm just going to go back and share my screen on this. Let me tell you about the man who wrote this article that I'm going to be reading. This is Patrick Dunleavy, who's a personal friend of mine, contact that works for the Investigative Project on Terrorism. He's one of my personal heroes as well. He's the author of The Fertile Soil of Jihad. But here's why he's one of my personal heroes. He's the former Deputy Inspector General of the New York State Department of Corrections. This is the man who led an investigation into the jihadis in the prison systems. Patrick Dunleavy is one of those men we need to keep saying thank you to for all of his work, and he keeps putting out. He's retired. He's been retired for a number of years, and yet he keeps putting out incredibly important information. So I'm just going to read his article that came out this morning. And this, I said, I've been following this story, and I saw Patrick's take on it. I was trying to get a hold of him, and he just could not come on today. But we'll see if we get to hear him later. If they're still going to, we'll see. I'm going to see if I can get some, because it's in my neighborhood. I'm going to be meeting with Patriots tomorrow. I'm going to see if I can get a stink going and stop this. We'll see. If there's going to be a protest in this area, it's going to be at Brockport, and I'll be one of the ones there. And you'll see it on film, I'm sure. So here we go. The State University of New York at Brockport, we call it SUNY, Brockport has invited a convicted domestic terrorist and co-founder of an anti-Semitic organization to be its featured speaker at an April 6th event. Anthony Bottom, also known as Jalil Muntakim, was a member of the Black Liberation Army, a domestic terror group that was responsible for a series of bombings and murders during the 1970s and 80s. A 1991 Maryland State Police report said that killing police officers was among the BLA's stated goals. Group members killed at least 15 police officers. Bottom was involved in 3 of those murders. He was convicted in the cold-blooded 1971 shooting deaths of 2 New York Police Department officers, Joseph Piagentini and Waverly Jones. Piagentini's widow, Diane, urged the parole board to keep Bottom in prison in 2019, saying, "He assassinated my husband and Waverly Jones because they wore the blue uniform." Bottom wouldn't even dispute that. He knew nothing about his victims and wasn't even a New York resident. He simply was out to ambush police. It could have been any officers, he admitted years later. Bottom was also held responsible in the shooting death of San Francisco Police Department Sergeant John Young in August of that same year. So this doesn't even mention the think about that. That's 3. So we're talking about 4. That would make 4. San Francisco. It's San Francisco Police Department. That is 3. Police Department, John Young in August that same year. Bottom was sentenced to life in prison for the killings on September 11, 2020. A New York State parole board appointed under then Governor Andrew Cuomo granted Bottom's release.
I got to correct you there. That's ass grabbing granny killer Cuomo. Just saying.
Granny killer.
Paul,
And
idiot.
Can I ask an obvious question?
Yeah. Yes.
What do they expect this multi-murderer to be saying at this New York university?
He's going under the guise of being a political prisoner. Apparently, the idiots who pass themselves off as educators are unfamiliar with the law in the United States. To think that a man convicted for murdering cops can now be held as a political. So it's not a crime to kill police officers. Is that what they're saying?
He was killing cops when killing cops wasn't cool. Now it's almost in vogue. It's not a big deal, but at the time, and this is one of those red lines that at least we had in our country at that time. But now, I mean, if you look at what goes on now, this is this may be the sign of the times, and it truly is sad if this gives us any indication of where we are as a society.
Hey, take a look at. Here's the other thing to think about. If this is Black Lives Matter today, they killed a black man. because he was wearing a blue uniform. My son still talks about maybe becoming a police officer. I can't say no to him, but when I think about people like this, yeah.
Well, my son is a police officer. He's a deputy sheriff here locally, and it just burns my hide thinking about. Oh, by the way, I want to brag a little bit. My 6th grandchild was born last night. So
yay! Yeah. Congrats!
Congratulations!
Some good news today. I don't.
Right? Yeah.
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
A little girl. So
it's nice to have some good news.
But getting back to your Sunday.
What are you changing the subject so quickly for, Red?
No, because I want to know. So if I'm driving through Davenport, Iowa, and I get pulled over on the bike, I can just say, "Hey, drop your name," right? If I get pulled over, I'm just saying,
He's not in Davenport.
Well, whatever county is, tell me so I can go, and just say, I'm friends with, Eric Smith's kid. He's a deputy police officer, so let me go. No, I'm sorry to interrupt, but go ahead. No, this is. I'm looking this dude up. This is horrible. This is horrible.
Let's go back into this guy. And he's also mentioned in Patrick's book, so I'll bring that up again. So let's keep back. Anthony, this bottom guy, this disgusting, vile excuse for a human, had an appearance at SUNY Brockport. Has an appearance at SUNY Brockport that triggers significant public backlash. New York State Senate Minority Leader Rob Ortt asked University President Heidi McPherson to rescind the invitation, calling it absolutely shameful. Let's be clear. Anthony Bottom was not a political prisoner. He's a convicted cop killer. Calling this an intellectual conversation on a taxpayer-funded state campus is intellectually dishonest. It's an insult. But in a public statement, McPherson indicated she would not step in. Quote, "We do not support the violence exhibited in Mr. Muntakim's previous crimes, and his presence on campus does not imply endorsement of his views." Did you catch this? Of his views. That's talking in present tense. So he's still okay with killing cops or past actions. However, we believe in she's quote, however, quote, "We believe in freedom of speech. SUNY Brockport has routinely held speaking events involving controversial speakers." This is not a controversial speaker. This is a man who killed cops. And viewpoints. Yeah. Okay, so you're going to have him speak on, okay, you can kill cops?
Paul.
Yeah.
How long was he in prison for this?
40.
The article I got says 50 years.
I think it was 49 years. I think it was 49.
Well, it's either.
So he has for sure been in
49 years too soon, but either way.
So he was for sure in prison for 49 years, and now he's coming out. Now he's going to go to a college to speak.
He's going to get paid to do that
by the New York State tax dollars.
Yeah. So I want to comment on some of this really quickly. So here's what I learned from my time spent over the summer of 2020 with some convicted criminals who were rallying for Trump. They were reformed criminals. Here's what they say. In these prisons, you get these prison. Well, okay, so the federal government, and this goes to everything. You know what those billions of dollars, trillions of dollars that we just passed over the last years? Nobody knows where it goes. It's just earmarked for certain things. Well, that money gets whacked up, okay, chopped up, and it gets given out as grants. I'm an idiot. We're all idiots. We need to take classes because they teach classes on how to get this money, okay? You set yourself up a charity. You can get the money for just about anything. They teach you how to fill out the forms. We could do good with this money instead of these criminal organizations that get this money. Anyway, they get this money, they go into the prisons, and they teach their radical ideology. So in other words, they're funding the prisoners in their radical ideology. Okay, they give them grant money, blah, 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 whatever. They put money on their commissary books, okay? I mean, seriously, to organize in prison. They teach them how to organize. They teach them how to write books and get away with writing the books and not getting, not getting the son of Sam. You know what I mean? Where if you commit a crime, you publish a book about it. The money's supposed to go to the victims, right? No. They teach you how to get away with that. They teach them all these things, and then when they get out of prison, they're even more radicalized than they were before. And not only that, but now they have PhDs. So now they're legit. So now they go on these speaking tours, and they get paid all this freaking money. Okay? All right? I mean, no, seriously, it's a big scam. And the federal government, our money, is paying for all of it. Now, when you get done, this
Patrick Dunleavy has been fighting. He's talking. One of Patrick Dunleavy's big kicks is a fight against the early release of terrorists, and we didn't classify this group that he was part of as terrorists back in that time period. We weren't thinking about terrorists back then. We were just thinking of how dare you kill a cop.
Well,
and
here,
let me ask you a quick question. Do we know if this guy is anyway repentant of what happened?
No, let me.
If
he's not.
Let me read you the press release.
He said he's not guilty, or he had due cause.
Well, if you listen to the statement, she's implying that he saw nothing wrong with it, with killing cops. Still,
let me read you the press release. Okay, this is Brockport Community College was issued an email. As following: Blackport Community College on April 6th, Jalali Makwana, previously known as Anthony Bottom, will be at SUNY Brockport campus to deliver a talk entitled "History of the Black Resistance, U.S. Political Prisoner and Genocide," a conversation with Jalali Maloklam. He was invited by one of our faculty members who was getting paid money from the federal government, who was approved for promoting excellence in a diversity grant. See, they're getting money to do this, okay? Mr. Markline joined the Black Panthers at the age of 16 and the Black Liberation Army at age 18. In 1971, he was convicted of killing 2 New York police officers who spent nearly 50 years in prison for his crime before being released on parole in 2020. The college has received strong feedback about this visit. Some are outraged that a man who's been convicted of such crime was invited on campus. Others look forward to the opportunity to learn about Mr. Makwan's experiences. We do not support the violence exhibited in Mr. Makwan's previous crime, and his presence on the campus does not imply endorsement, blah, 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 blah. But seriously, does the title, History of the Black Resistance, U.S. Political Prisoner and Genocide, a conversation with Jalal Makwan, does it sound like he's repentant?
Doesn't sound like they're talking about a cop killer, that's for sure.
Nope. No, but you know, grant money in diversity and excellence in diversity.
This black resistance movement that kills a black man. Yeah.
Power, black fist of power. That's nothing, dude. Let me tell you the story about. Well, if you're done, when you're done with this and you got time,
let me finish this article.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I get so disgusted with this. I think this person who is the current president of Brockport, SUNY Brockport, should be physically removed from her residence, which is provided by the college, and physically removed from her position and put in a setting not unlike the one that her guest is coming from. Let me just continue. It was in defending those very rights that Piagenti and Jones and Young died in the line of duty. Keep that in mind. She killed the people who defend your rights. This guy killed 3 men who defend your rights. During his time in prison, Bottom co-founded the Jericho Movement, a group whose stated goal is the release of what it calls political prisoners. The list of names that the Jericho Movement considers political prisoners is a virtual who's who of those who have murdered law enforcement officers. Are you catching this? Bombed and attacked American institutions and killed innocent civilians. This list includes Jamil al-Amin, formerly known as H. Rap Brown, head of the radical Dar al-Islam movement. He's serving a life sentence for the 2000 murder of Fulton County Deputy Sheriff Ricky Kinchin. Abu Jamal Mumia, a.k.a. Wesley Cook, who is serving a life sentence for the murder of Philadelphia police officer Daniel Faulkner. Anybody catching what they have in common so far? Marl Mason, a member of the Earth Liberation Front, a group designated as a domestic terror organization by the FBI. She's serving 22-year sentence for an arson spree. We had 2 out of 3 that had something in common with Jalil. Islam. So these are not, as Bottom would have us believe, innocent people who are simply exercising their right to protest against social injustice. They're violent domestic terrorists. In sentencing Mason, U.S. District Judge Paul Maloney described her as someone who elevated her grievances beyond the norms of civilized society through violence. Bottom's organization also supports the BDS movement, which Islam does, and the destruction of Israel as a nation. This is a quote from them. Zionism is a form of white supremacy. Really? Kind of humorous. All right. And European colonialism. Israel was founded on Zionism and is therefore an unjust, illegitimate state. We understand that Zionism to be a central pillar of U.S. imperialism. And this has to do with political prisoners. How? Yeah. The Jericho movement also is a vocal supporter of terrorist organizations such as the PFLP, Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, and Hamas. You might wonder when or where did Anthony Bottom acquire such virulent anti-Semitic beliefs? And my suggestion is that you go read Patrick Dunleavy's book, The Fertile Soil of Jihad, where he documents how Anthony Bottom met a number of Middle Eastern inmates in New York State prison, all serving time for violent crimes. One was Yusuf Salah, a Palestinian with Jordanian citizenship, who was convicted in 1980 for arson. He'd set fire to a Jewish deli in New York City, killing 2 people. Another was Nofan Hamdan, a Palestinian serving a life sentence for firebombing a building in Brooklyn owned by a Jewish company, which left 1 man dead. A third was Abdel Zabdan, a Palestinian from Ramallah, serving time for a series of kidnappings and robberies in New York City to raise money for the cause. A third was prior to his arrest, Zabdan worked for Ali Qassed, one of the founders of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Zabdan's uncle, Khalil al-Zabdan, was an advisor to the PLO leader, Yasser Arafat. Zabdan also expressed his support for Hamas. And finally, Rashid Baz, responsible for the 1994 terror attack on a van load of students traveling across the Brooklyn Bridge that killed Ari Haibestam and wounded several others. I only shot them because they were Jewish, he later said. And this is the kind of man that is deemed acceptable to present to impressionable minds. I have a meeting tomorrow. Just keep us in prayer because I'm going to blast and yell and say we need to do something. And it's the day that the guy who's running for governor is supposed to present to us. So we'll see if he's going to do something too.
Hey, Paul, do you know if these guys have ties to the Nation of Islam?
Those particular ones are all Sunni that we mentioned. They're all Sunni. The interesting thing now, Nation of NOI has now been officially accepted under the Muslim Brotherhood umbrella here in the United States. So they have done certain things to conform to accepting Sunni Islam more so. I'm still waiting for them to come out and admit that Muhammad was white, though.
Well, I'm trying to think how they get around that. If you're Sunni, maybe I'm showing my ignorance here, but if you're Sunni, you believe that Muhammad was the last prophet. Nation of Islam believes that Elisha Muhammad was a prophet. Wali Fard was a prophet of some sort. So how do they reconcile that? Do you have any idea?
The Muslim Brotherhood umbrella accepts them for the purpose of creating a unifying. It's a good question. When they created the MPAC, they brought NOI into it, and you're asking good, important questions, and they don't necessarily make sense. I
would think that this would be kind of like the Catholic Church accepting Lutherans into the umbrella under the Catholic movements. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, or something like that. I don't know. I mean, that would be the equivalent, though. I mean,
yeah.
Or maybe even if you look at it even more consistently, it would be like the Baptist Convention accepting the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as an equivalent faith group.
In the group that you're talking about, when the Catholics accepted the Lutherans in, there was a claim when they did that, when they made that statement, that Vatican II made this possible. However, if you actually read Vatican II, it affirms Council of Trent, and it says Council of Trent is still enforced. Mm-hmm. So, and this is in particular about the ECLA event. That is what it's about, and it was incredibly stupid.
Freaks. The ELCA, the evangelical. Are you talking about the Evangelical
Lutheran Church of America?
Right. Yeah. This is these guys are ordaining homosexuals. They're it's
yeah.
This is at one time I did go to an ELCA church, and this tells you how well, maybe not telling you how old I am, but when we were first considering joining that church, and it was because we were in the military, and you go to there's no Lutheran churches in the South except for a couple, and so we didn't have a lot to select from to begin with. But this was right at the time that the internet's coming out, and you had America Online, and I did some looking into the ELCA because I grew up in Missouri Synod, and I confronted my pastor. I said, "Look, this is a document that was entertained at the ELCA convention this year of ordaining homosexuals as pastors." And he's like, "They do this every year. It's never going to pass. It's just a bunch of fluff and stuff for them to entertain at the convention." I'm thinking, well, why are you doing this anyway? But we joined out of expedience. A great bunch of people in church. 7 years later, they had a vote, ELCA wide, and I remember having a conversation with my in-laws. And every single time that they were opining about it, we were sitting at the dinner table. They were saying, "Well, I believe that X, Y, and Z. I believe X, Y, and Z. I believe X, Y, and Z." And I finally said, "Well, God, through His holy word, says that it is wrong. And the church, if it is representative of God, should also declare that it's wrong." We dropped the subject after that because nobody wanted to talk.
I left
because of that.
I left the Methodist Church because they thought that was an important discussion. The United Methodist Church. So,
do the Methodists ordain homosexuals?
No, they didn't, but they were having the conversation, so I left.
Yeah.
Methodists, they ordain female preachers, though, right?
Well, again, that depends on this. There's different Methodist churches, so it depends on the different denominations.
Right. I know the Presbyterians. There's different Presbyterians. The one I sometimes attend is not the gay one, but I did attend the gay one, and they're full-blown gay. But I forgot their
that would be,
organization name.
I believe that's United Presbyterian.
Yeah, something like that. They all sound similar though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they all try to market themselves.
We have the first, being Rochester, New York, we have that particular church that made the news, that started that process here.
Paul?
Yeah. Yes.
You know, once the dialectic comes into a church and they want to discuss on a matter, you can most likely take it to the bank that they're going to institute it somewhere down the future.
That's why I left the Methodist Church. If you have to ask the question, that means you stop believing in the Bible. Is how I looked at it.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
That is exactly right. And that's what's happening to our churches, because they're like, well, let's just come and talk about it. No, we're supposed to be preaching the gospel. That's what we're ordained to do, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And it doesn't mean in the name of homosexuality.
I think Dr. Michael Brown, he brought it up. He said, if you look at all these churches and the way they're going, you have the deacons and the pastors and all the elders, okay, in the church. All of a sudden, they have a child who is openly gay. And to them, the concept, well, if we make gay okay, then therefore they're not going to hell, or, it's going to, not be, they can still be around. You know what I mean? So it's coming at that angle, okay?
Rad, I might shock you on this, Rad, but I don't think homosexuals are necessarily condemned to hell.
Well, you are a heretic, so yeah.
I very might well be. But here's why. I mean, when Paul lists all those sins that in Romans chapter 1, homosexuality is one, men burning lust for men, doing what is but there are all kinds of other sins there also. But
yeah. But if you're a man lusting for a woman, you're in that same boat.
Well, right, no, but notice what it says. And so such were some of you. Okay.
Yeah. No. There is were.
There is redemption. When I say homosexual, what I mean by this is they are accepting this lifestyle, okay, and accepting and promoting it and calling it good. If they do that, they think, okay, fine, we can just ignore it and keep it
right.
My kid can still come to family dinner,
There are homosexuals out there, and I've known, I don't say quite a few, but I've known a few who are truly repentant of their love. And they at least acknowledge that I agree with the Bible. It is sinful, but this is what they and they don't try to make an excuse for it. They don't try to say, well, God made me this way, but they say that this is an unnatural lust that I have, and I participate in, I give in to sin every now and then. And those people, I
would behave,
but I'll be perfectly honest. I have an uncle who is married to a dude, and I love him to death. I mean, he's my uncle. He's my mom's brother, but he is unrepentant. He believes that God has made him that way, and for somebody like him, I fear for his soul. However, I believe God is indeed a perfect judge, and He's going to judge justly. Mm-hmm. But again, if you follow exactly what God's word said, he's condemning himself because it's an unrepentant sin.
Well, see, that's the thing.
I believe there's a line.
God judges perfectly and God judges justly. So if he is unrepentant, you just pretty much are going to know where God is going to judge.
And that is just.
You know what I mean?
That is law. He transgressed his law. How is God going to deal with that? And that's for God to decide, not me.
Well, no. So, but no, that's the thing. So, we often get confused on that. Okay, no, I'm not condemning homosexuals to hell. What I am saying is this: these pastors, these deacons, these elders who have these children who are openly defiant, coming out as gay because that's what society tells them they can do, and it's perfectly fine and natural. All of a sudden, it's creating family strife. Okay, so therefore, these elders, deacons, and people going to try to say, "Oh, look, if we just say it's okay, I mean, is it really that big of a deal? We're still going to love them, and because they do want their children in their life. Nobody wants to, say, hey, because this is a big deal. No, you're not coming over to my house for family dinner. I'm just saying, okay? You know what I mean? And it's not that you would say that. It's just that they would not come over because they got to be flamboyantly gay, rub it in your face, and say, ha, you know what I mean? Provoking.
Well, when they would come, him and his husband, whatever they call each other, would visit my mom would not allow them to stay at the house if they were going to stay in the same room together. So they would
good for your mom.
Yeah. I mean,
more power to your mom.
She was, and she caught a lot of flack from it from some of the other brothers and sisters.
So I have
we got you way off
actually related to this topic. So let me pull up this other article I have here, and we'll put it over here. Here we go. 2 transgender people were attacked. This is in France by a man who wanted to die as a martyr, and you guys didn't know I was going to do this, so I thought.
Please tell me the trannies beat the crap out of the dude. I'm just saying because that'd be funny. And we got video, right? We got video. Please tell me.
So let me get back here. Okay, I went out of the article just a second. And I gotta stop. It's in the middle of limbo. All right, let's hold it down here. All right, one more time. The joy of when you put too many things up on the screen. And I don't think that's me, Pop. Oh, okay, let's try this again. Here we go. And just close this up. Okay. So here we go. Nice. Two transgender people attacked by a man who wanted to die as a martyr. It's by Raphael Melchan. 2 transgender. Okay. And here we go. They were on a dinner break at the Saint Augustine police station in Nice when they received around 12:50 midnight. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, a radio message reporting a violent knife attack in the city center, Boulevard Gambetta. These 3 LAC officials and colleagues immediately go to the scene and learn that 2 perps are on the run. The alleged stabber is reportedly dressed in Bayern Munich football team tracksuit bottoms. The video operators tell the speakers that the 2 men are at the Albert First Garden on Promenade des Anglais beachside. The police officers of the BAC spin on the spot and manage to arrest a first man of Tunisian origin. The 2 victims are transgender people. Both were assaulted, but only one was stabbed. And I'm not sure when they say she, if that's a he or a she. So she received several stab wounds to the shoulder, cheek, arm, and hands, but her life-threatening condition is not engaged. At the same time, the alleged perp of the stab wounds managed to flee on foot on the promenade and does not obey the police officer's orders to stop. The fugitive then shouted, "Allah Akbar, shoot me. I want to die as a martyr. I want to go to paradise." Officers then see him running towards the beach to approach a group of people. At the last moment, the fugitive changes trajectory and finally heads towards the couple. The police are shouting at onlookers to move away because the man is identified as the alleged perp for the stabbing. Finally, the 2 officers manage to surround him, and a third who arrived in reinforcement tackles him to the ground, and they find a bloody knife on him. At that moment, the individual reportedly told the police that his name was Muhammad, that he was born in 2002 in Nice and lives in the town. And he repeatedly said he wanted to die as a martyr, that he wanted to kill in the name of Allah and kill a fag.
And that's when the police should have said, okay, fine. I got no problem with that. Thank you for coming. You know what I mean?
This is, when they're still humans. Again, this is a second generation. now you have to ask yourself if what we're defining. This is why I want to move away from the crime of terrorism to basically charging what it is. This was a crime of attempted murder. If we just get rid of the crime of terrorism, you can now give the person a life sentence or close to it. And that's one of the dangers, because the terrorism crime, at least in the United States and most Western countries, is only 20 years. So this is the issue where they have they've had a man in jail, KSM, for 20 years, and we're talking close to 20 years. And what did he do? He killed 3,000 people. So if you charged him with the murder of close to 3,000 people, if actually it's more when we think about all the crimes he committed, then you don't have to think about the 20-year penalty. You can talk about 3,000 life sentences. I mean, he should be there till his bones turn to dust if you're going to keep him in prison and you don't want to execute him. But in other countries, this is where I like the King of Id's solution and his reasoning with dealing with murder and giving out the death penalty. The King of Id said when Rodney brought a murderer before him, said Rodney says, well, he committed murder, and King says, off with his head. And the murderer says, well, the death penalty isn't a deterrent. King of Id responds, no, I'll believe that when I see you again. I unfortunately think that the reasoning is actually that simple. And when you think about repeat crime,
it really is. Well, just to comment, I absolutely agree with you on the whole terrorism thing. There's a number of problems with the whole terrorism charge. Well, first of all, main problem, there's actually a thing called terrorism insurance riders, that if you own a business or whatever, you actually have to buy extra special terrorism insurance, okay? And so if the state declares something that happened in your area that damaged your building as an act of terror, guess what? You don't get compensated from your insurance company unless you had the terrorist rider. Okay, now that is not in all situations, but that has definitely happened. Okay. Secondly, if you think about it, terror is just a weapon. It is a tool. This whole I declare the war on terror is like saying I declare war on the Panzer tank in 1940. You know what I mean? Yeah, big deal. Okay, you're going to blow a bunch of tanks. No, the whole idea, these are people. This is an ideology, and an ideology that is supported and enacted by people. So yes, you try them for murder, plain and simple. That way you take away any political crap that they can claim, any religious crap. No, you committed murder or you attempted to commit mass murder, and that's that, and we never see you again. I don't care.
Well, it's actually worse, because the truth of the matter is the United States never declared a war on terror.
Well, right? Yeah, but okay.
It never declared a war on terror. It did other things to stand against terrorism, but there was never a declaration of war on terrorism. And as at the time, I'm one of those who believed we had. But when you look into the truth of that matter, you come away with a taste in your mouth that is not pretty. You feel like you were deceived. We were. Yeah, we were truly deceived. Uh-huh. I've gotten into this late, and I say I got into it late is because things became very local for me, and they still are local. Here I am 10 years later from when I started to get in on things. And there again, this week, it's local again.
So this is a college near you where the student's going to speak?
Yes, it's where my sister graduated from.
Oh, you got to go and videotape it, man. Live stream.
Oh, I'm going to. I'm going to.
No, seriously, man, because that would be very interesting. Okay, to see how he praises killing the cop, man. But dude, if you're done, I want to tell you the story of Chelsea Bodine or whatever his name is, the San Francisco DA. I thought that's who you're talking about. That's not. So, are you ready for this?
All right.
Are you ready to be completely shocked?
Okay.
Okay, the now district attorney of San Francisco, Chelsea Bodine or Chelsea Boda, something like that. Okay, he was a public defender for a little while and then became a prosecutor. He is literally, like, for instance, his office just recently, I'll give you some of the highlights of his career so far. His office just recently sentenced a 22-year-old male who sexually assaulted, it was a cold case file, who, when he was 16 years old, sexually assaulted a 10-year-old girl in a public restroom, okay, to do 2 years, okay, as a juvenile in a juvenile detention center.
Oh, yes.
Wait, it gets better. Because all of a sudden, the dude who is a dude, all of a sudden claims he's transsexual. So he's now being sent to the female juvenile detention center for sexually molesting a 10-year-old girl.
But he's no longer a teenager, is he?
No, he's 22 years old. But they could have charged him as an adult. Okay? But they didn't. Even the judge said, "Are you freaking kidding me?" You know, but they said, "No, this is what Chelsea wants. This is their district attorney's office." No, this is one of those radical DAs that are releasing prisoners, that are just releasing criminals back to society to go and terrorize the community. As a matter of fact, his first year in office, I'll give you one more highlight. He actually represented this dude. He represented him as a public defender. Okay? Anyway, the dude was convicted of a violent crime, whatever, but he got out. He was a career criminal. He got out, okay, on early release bail because of COVID. His office did not recuse themselves. The prosecutors, because he's now the prosecutor, did not recuse themselves, okay, because he had represented him as a public defender. God bless you, sir. Okay. The dude gets out, goes on a drunken rampage, and kills 2 people in a car accident. Okay, this is his first move. I mean, no, there's all kinds of things. Well, here's the background story of Chelsea Bodine's parents, which goes to you in New York. His mother was an original member of the Weather Underground.
Oh, boy.
She actually attended the famous meeting in 1971 or 1970 in Flint, Michigan, where she is actually, they have clips of her and documents where her and the woman who raised Chelsea Bodine, I'll get to that in a second, did a skit on why it's okay to kill white babies. Okay? This woman checks out a book at the New York Public Library under her name on how to make chemical explosives. She's living in a flat now. Or it's not a flat. What is brownstone townhomes? I mean, well, they weren't townhomes back then. But, you know, the brownstone three-story buildings, okay, the nice homes or whatever in New York. She's upstairs. The woman who would later raise Chelsea Bodine is also upstairs, okay? I forgot which one. One of them was in the shower. One of them was sleeping. I forget which one is which. But all of a sudden, the building blows up in the basement. She runs out. The other woman runs out. I forget which one was naked. That's not really important to the story, but they're outside. And it turns out, because of the book that she had rented in her name, 3 of her cohorts downstairs were making pipe bombs from the book that she lent them. They describe stories of decapitated bodies, roofing nails, and corpses. I mean, no, these were anti-personnel bombs that they were going to make. Turns out, where they were going to use these bombs was at what is that? Fort Dix is in New York.
Oh, geez, yeah.
I'm sorry, you're on mute. Is it Fort Dix?
New Jersey.
New Jersey,
oh,
yeah.
New Jersey, okay, yeah.
They were going to attend a non-commissioned officers, the sergeant's dance that the sergeants puts on for their wives and girlfriends. They were going to detonate these bombs at this dance, okay? But unfortunately, they blew themselves up. Well, anyway, she goes on the run. Now, I know you all heard that January 6th, right, people, was the worst attack on the Capitol building since the Civil War, or since the British War, whatever, War of 1812, right? Oh, no. Did you guys hear about the woman's bathroom in the Senate chamber blowing up? Guess who did that? Chelsea Bodine's mother, when she was on the run, and with the woman who later raised him. Okay? They went on the run. She planted the bomb. She admits it. This is well documented. Blew up the woman's restroom, causing $2 million in damage in the Senate chambers. Nobody was killed, fortunately, at that time. She later went on to plant a bunch of bombs at various federal buildings, immigration offices, all over the country. She was the mad bomber, okay? Some people were hurt, injured. Nobody was really killed, I don't think. Well, fast forward to 1981 or 1982. Okay. Chelsea doesn't marry, but has a baby with Chelsea Bodine's father, okay? 81, 82. They also form a group called the New Black Panthers.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Actually, no, it wasn't the New Black Panthers. Hold on, it was They took members of the new with members of the Black Panthers or the new Black Panthers. They formed another group called, I want to say May 6th, but it's some date in May, which just happens to be her birthday and also the birthday of Mao Zedong. That's really who they named after. But her birthday is the same birthday that Mao Zedong was born. Anyway, oh, by the way, she's from a very wealthy family of rich lawyers, okay? All right? No, she's very wealthy lady. And anyway, well, they plan a heist to fund their revolution. They rob an armored car, okay, in New York City. Well, not New York, it was like Rochester, New York, or something like that. $1.6 million was the haul, okay, because, you know, socialist communists, they require money. She rented the van in her name, the getaway van. It was a U-Haul truck. Actually rented both of them in her names. So they had the getaway U-Haul and they had another U-Haul. They drive up on these armored car guards, shoot one and kill one of them outright, wound the other guy. That's important. So one survived. Anyway, they get away with $1.6 million in cash, but they didn't get far because the New York State police officers were tipped off right away and they blocked up the highway. They pulled them over. They were driving. Bodine, mother and father were driving the car. They both jump out of the car. The U-Haul van with their hands up, don't shoot, whatever. But they don't tell the police officers that there are 4 or 5 armed Black Panthers in the back of the U-Haul with the money. Okay. As a matter of fact, they say no one's in there. Well, the police officers open up. There's a shootout. 2 or 3 police officers are killed. They get convicted. Okay. So, well, she pleads guilty. I think the father. Well, either way, they get convicted. Okay, and sentenced to long stretches in prison, New York State prison. Chelsea Bodine was in diapers. He was barely a toddler at this time. So he's raised by the other nut lady. Okay, so she's still brought up in all this crap, all this socialist, communist crap. Okay, anti-American shit. He's raised on this stuff, right? Okay. Anyway, so he later becomes, well, now he's the district attorney. But here's the thing. His mother finally was released. Well, she got her PhDs and crap, you know. Was released, I think, several years ago. She now teaches at Brown University. She's the adjunct professor of, I don't know, some kind of social justice BS kind of crap, okay? No, she's not even adjunct. She's the department chair, I think. She's already tenured. She's like, I'll have to look that up. It's either Brown. It's one of those Ivy League schools, okay? But no, okay. So guess what? Guess what Cuomo did right before he left office? He commuted the sentence of Bodine's father, the cop murderer. So that's another cop murderer, that ass grabbing, granny killing Cuomo freed on the way out. But dude, think about this. They elected this dude who's the son of 2 convicted cop killers, terrorists, whatever you want to call them, okay, as the public defender. And he is not the public defender unless by public you mean criminals. And the Democratic governor released his father from prison on clemency as disgraced Democratic governor as he was being released. And what's his name? Chelsea Bodine praised Governor Cuomo for doing it. Thank you for freeing my dad. Blah, blah, blah. I had to visit him all the time behind bars. It was a horrible childhood.
The man who couldn't keep his hands off women and didn't have a problem with cops being assaulted unless they were
the Love Gov. Academy Award winning Love Gov. That's Democrats for you, baby. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't call him the Love Gov if they don't want his attentions.
That's what they were calling him. That's what they were calling him, the Love Gov. Remember the Love Gov won an Academy Award. $7 million on an advance on a book deal for how he handled the COVID.
Yeah. At least his brother kind of paid the price also for covering it up. So,
oh no! I'm rooting for Cuomo Jr. because he's suing CNN. He should get every penny of it, dude. He's going after what's his name now? Remember Ebony and Ivory? What's his name?
Zuckerberg.
No, not Zuckerberg. Yeah, Zuckerberg. Right after him.
No, but the actually, I think he has a valid point because how could he be violating journalistic standards when the head of CNN was telling him to go ahead and doing this and actually directly paying him to actually do what they were told to do. But no, his black buddy, what's his name? The gay dude. Can't think of his name.
Oh,
They were
I know
always,
what
I
you're
love
talking
you, bro. Huh? You guys
I know what you're
remember?
talking about.
Yeah, I love you, bro. Don
something.
Lamont.
There
Don
you go.
Lamont.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love you, bro. I love you too, bro. They were best buds. They
Oh,
were,
yeah.
bro. They had a bromance going on. No, they hate each other now, dude. So I'm all for that, dude. I actually support him because it's taking down.
I was just going to add
Anyway.
one thing to that what you were talking about there, Rad. When kids are raised without their parents, especially if their parents are incarcerated, they have a lot of. Of course, you're going to have issues. You're going to have some serious issues, but you have a lot of security issues. And when this guy goes out, when you start talking about this guy going out to, where he's assaulting all these little kids, this is just a result of that. So when your parent goes out and commits both your parents go out and commit violent acts, and they're incarcerated, and they're not there to raise you, you're going to have kids naturally have issues with trust and confidence in adults. Why? Because the very ones that they were supposed to care for them, to provide for them, bailed on them because they thought that blowing up whatever the heck it was more important than caring for their child. So this is exactly what you would expect to find with somebody that has the issues that this kid has. He's out there raping and fondling little girls, and now he's a girl now. Am I right on this? He's a she. Am I right on this?
Oh, no. So under California law, you don't have to put on because remember, sex and gender are not so much outwardly or physical character.
No, but what I'm saying is he's a she. He's confused. He's
no, he's not even dressing as a woman, dude. He's going in there as a straight up man because they don't have to. They are releasing. Oh, that's another thing. They are releasing violent criminals in men's prison. All I got to say is, yeah, I'm transsexual. And guess what? They go to the women's prison. And, here's a shocking thing. Guess what? They are trying to figure out why all of a sudden all these female prisoners are becoming pregnant.
We're getting raped.
Yeah, there's a spike. Well, you can't say all of them are getting raped. I'm sorry, but still, yeah, some of them are probably. Well, you know what? I don't see them getting raped because these are hardened women criminals that are in prison. I think they'd be cutting their gonads off. You know what I mean?
At a minimum, I would think at a minimum, if you were going to follow that route, you would go with the idea of castration.
Yeah, that's the only. That's the
there was
only
any justice in all this.
That's if you're going to follow any sense of logic, that would be a requirement to head towards the.
But no, the point is, under California law, they don't have to. They don't have to go through the hormone treatments, the plastic surgery.
I'd say skip the hormone treatment. Use a rusty knife, and then give them what they want.
Well, either way, so no, these are dudes that are going into these women prison, and they're dudes. They're not even making an effort. You know what I mean? Because they don't have to. This, and Biden supports this. He actually said in his, remember, he said in one of his town hall meetings, and when he was asked about it, he said, "Yeah, I believe that people should go to prison of that meets their gender of their choice." He said that. People are insane.
I have seen something. This is where, when you pay attention to, it's hard for me to watch a man who really should not be in a position of employment due to dementia. He can't have a straightforward conversation that lasts more than 5 minutes.
Wow, you're generous, Paul.
I say 3 is usually the limit, but he can't even read it from a teleprompter anymore. So this is why he's been hiding Biden again. Instead of us hiding from him and children hiding from him, that's where we're at. I want to say thank you for everybody for coming. gonna say good night to everybody, and I appreciate all your contributions. And it's important. It's important. We are here to get the truth out. And that is usually we're talking about Jesus, getting the truth out about Jesus, and fighting for your freedom is what you need to do today. What does that mean? Stand up, be counted, share out the truth, and don't let other people take that from you. God bless you all. Thank you for being here. Bye.